Yeah. Welcome. Nice to see you. Thank you. Uh-oh. I just got undone. Good morning. If you had told me that my job was going to one day be to welcome you all to the Resistance, I would have believed you, actually. So let me tell you something. As you know, the last 5 weeks, it's only been 5 weeks, have been pretty astounding. But let me tell you something that happened 5 weeks ago. My name is Alotta. I'm the executive director of the Australia Lesbian Foundation for Justice. As the tables started turning with this election, I got a call one day and said, there's going to be a march on Washington, it's going to be a women's march, and we'd like you to be on the policy table. I didn't know what that meant. It was a bunch of conference calls. It was kind of amazing. And from there, this amazing group of folks put together a policy statement for the Women's March. And at the time, we thought a couple 100,000 people might show up in Washington. We thought a lot of things were going to happen that didn't happen leading up to there. But so then, after the policy statement came out, I got a phone call and said, hey, would you be willing to speak at the Women's March? And I was like, sure, I can speak in front of, a couple 100,000 people. And then, to make a very long story short, as you all know, the largest organized protest in history happened. On every continent, whether it was 1.2 million folks in Washington, or 3 people in a small town, or folks, cancer patients marching around their hospital floors, or people on Navy bases, and people all over the world came out for a progressive agenda and said, we will not notice what is happening. We will not take a stand. And this is an amazing idea. So what does it mean to welcome you to the Resistance? What is resistance? And many of us have been fighting and articulating the need for profound change in this country, in the world, in terms of making it more just. But resistance is, as Leanne was talking about, is a statement of power. What does it mean for us to exert our power for the forces of good? What does it mean for us to come together and take a stand? What does it mean for us to know better and to do better? And this resistance, if I can geek out with you for a minute, and I suspect in this room I can, is the proposition of us collectively knowing the direction which we want to turn and go and move toward. And that is actually, if anything good is coming out of this moment politically, it's the fact that so many people are standing up and taking a stand. The only way we are going to not only persevere, but to thrive, is by coming together. This is the end of us working in isolation. So you're now in a room full of comrades, and the way that we are meant to move forward is to make sure, is for us to work hyper-locally. Having people over for dinner is going to become an act of resistance. Invite people over. Know who your neighbors are if you don't. Know who is around you and call your people to you. And as we work that way and strengthen our bonds with each other closer and closer and closer to home, we will gather the momentum we need. We will become the force of resistance that we need to not only persevere what is being done, but to change the future as we intend for it to be. So, Leanne called me, she didn't call me, she texted me, but Leanne texted me, turn to page 3. Leanne texted me and said, right after the march, dude, that was great. You have to do it at Lesbians Who Tech. And I was like, okay, do you do the same speech twice? But here I am going to do it. So there's a little bit, it's slightly different. It's just as cold. But Are you freezing? Like, you're just freezing in here. Yeah. But the way to warm up is to come up on stage and have to talk in front of all of you. So that's what you can do. So I'm going to do the speech for you. I want you to pay attention to a couple of things that are kind of uncanny. That whether you're talking to a million folks in Washington, D.C., it's weirdly relevant to all of us here at the Castro Theater. And the things that have happened in the days since the inauguration are incredibly, I have no interest in being prophetic, but the executive orders that have come down, the ways that we have been inundated with a political strategy, which is to undo the very basic tenets that would keep us together. The United States has always been an experiment in democracy. It hasn't succeeded yet. But the only way that we are going to make it is to ensure that we keep the pathways of possibility open. And that's where we find ourselves now. Yesterday, they talked about the cabinet appointments specifically being to undo the very offices that they were heading. We must stay ever vigilant. We must have our eyes open, and we must not be confused by the chaos. We are the chaos. We are the beautiful energy. We are the resistance that can move things forward. Pay attention to them, but pay them no never mind. I'm going to not scream like I'm talking to a crowd, but you can kind of get the vibe of what happened. My name is J. Bob Alotta, and I am the executive director of the Estrella Lesbian Foundation for Justice. For 40 years, Estrella has been on the front line supporting LGBTQI activism in the United States and around the world. But I'm not here to talk to you about 40 years. I'm here to talk to you about today, right now. We may not be here because of someone we may be here because of someone or something we did not choose, but today we did choose to show up, to stand up, to march, to gather together. This is what this time is about, what we are going to choose. Because in a week from now, a month from now, 4 years from now, we will have been inundated by messaging, not just tweets, but a barrage of policy and public sentiment, images and articles, subtle and overt shifts in all the ways culture is made, and our values and our choices will be tested. In the days, weeks, months, and years to come, we will need to become our own collective moral compass. We will need to become our own North Star. So when you look around here today and you are moved by the beauty and diversity and passion of all the folks around you, remember this: we chose to come together in all of our power. We do not and we will not choose one neighbor over another. We do not and we will not choose to deny our queerness, our lesbian, gay, bi, or trans selves in order to be in a march for women or a country for everyone. We do not and we will not deny the beauty and power and joy in our blackness and our brownness as if it will make us safer or any more sane in a country that proves otherwise every day. We do not and we will not we will not hide behind our whiteness because of the vestiges of privilege that to this day services a system meant to succeed the will and line the pockets of a few men who'd have us all believe there is superiority in our shade, just to keep us from knowing the power of truly living in righteous community. We will not choose any one man's notion of God to define every single one of our divine possibilities, and surely not our secular or public rules of law. We will not choose some of our rights over all of our rights. We choose to know better, to do better, to be better, and to love better. Now, let me talk to you about love. This is the part that gets ironic in this room. I might be wonderful, but I know I got chosen to be up here as the resident homosexual. Or one of them anyway. So what do you need? What do you need with a big old queer like me? I think it is to talk about radical love. To stand here on this stage right now and proclaim my commitment to love in the most radically honest way possible. For you all now to commit to doing so. So let me queer our collective notion of love so that every one of us will step past the easy, the scripted, the societally sanctioned, the familiar, the safe notions of love, and let us choose the pathway to not only the greatest possibility, but the greatest reward. I am suggesting that the resistance is an act of love. When it gets hard, when you leave this room, when you don't have the music in your head or DJ following you around wherever you go, although you might want to consider it, lean into that notion. What it takes to fight for yourself, for your child, for your neighbor, for the person who you've been too scared to talk to, for the person who does not look like you, for the person who looks just like you and that's why they are being persecuted. When somebody tells you you are in the wrong bathroom, when somebody tells you you have no access to education, when somebody makes it sound like it is okay that someone should not be let into the country standing next to you because they had to flee their home that was unsafe for them to begin with, likely because of some economic or political policy put forth by this country, or because it was unsafe for who they were. When you decide to stand up and to do the thing that you are afraid to do, no, it is because you believed in the radical notion of love. That is an act of love. Know that. So no, we are not a fluke. This is not a singular phenomenon. We are fantastic and fabulous, and this is only the beginning. No, this is not a one-off. This is an uprising of love. We are an uprising of love. Can you say it? We are an uprising of love. We are an uprising of love. We are an uprising of love. Choose it every day.